Now, I normally don't do videos about news announcements, but this one was just so massive and so impactful for Aduro, and I think this is the biggest event of 2025 for Aduro that I just had to make a video about it. This is just such a massive deal, and I wanted to cover it in a separate video because for me personally, it is the biggest event of 2025 for Aduro. So yeah, we're talking about Aduro Clean Technologies, ticker symbol ADUR on the Nasdaq, and I am a shareholder in Aduro, so my opinion is biased, and please do your own due diligence before investing any money. So what was exactly that big event? Well, Aduro Clean Technologies and ECOSE, a Mexican non-profit environmental association, have entered a multi-year collaboration to evaluate Aduro's technology as a solution for recycling flexible and mixed plastic packaging in Mexico. I mean, this is a huge deal. ECOSE is pretty much the environmental association of Mexico. All the major players are in it. It is, greenlit by the government. It is the major player in Mexico, and Mexico is a massive country, like over 100 million people, massive plastic pollution problems as pretty much anywhere in the world, and this is such a great announcement. I think I'm really excited about it. It's just such a massive deal. This is the second collaboration that they have, let's say full-sized collaboration, and the first one was with Total Energies in the middle of 2024, and it's amazing to see another one before the year is even out. So great. Through this partnership, the organizations aim to assess the technical and commercial viability of converting this challenging waste stream into valuable resources to support the circular economy. The collaboration is expected to formally begin in 2026, in January 2026. Yeah. This is just a little summary that I personally written, and it pretty much tells you everything that you need to know about the press release, because it's pretty lengthy and you might not want to read it yourself. So this is pretty much what it is. So what exactly is ECOSE? Well, ECOSE actually created and administers in Mexico the first private collective national plan for integral management of PET waste, flexible packaging, and high-density polyethylene, but also promotes utilization of post-consumer containers and packaging. So, this is, like I mentioned, the prime company that focuses on pretty much all types of packaging in Mexico. So they do also educational programs, communications campaigns. They're also very engaged with politics, with all the regulations that are being set, as they are the major player in Mexico, a massive, massive country. It attends to the legislative and regulatory agenda and has been a key engine for the design and creation of efficient proposal to boost the value of waste. Right, this is exactly what Aduro is doing. If you're maybe new to the story, what Aduro does is pretty much profitable plastics recycling of very dirty plastics feedstock. So if you have just a mixed through pile of plastic waste with a little bit of contamination, and it's all mixed through different plastic types, etc., Aduro can turn that into a valuable oil product which can be sold or which you can use to create more plastic. So yeah, they're also obviously worried about the impact of the environment. I think we all are, but the main driver here, of course, boosting the value of waste, which Aduro is a prime candidate for. And ECOSE is really the major player in Mexico, and their partners in that association is Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Nestle, Danone, Unilever, Procter & Gamble, Mondelez, all these big players. And obviously these are multinational players, but here we're focusing on their impact in Mexico. So I dug through the ECOSE 2022 activity report. It's the most recent one that they published. And obviously the original is in Spanish. I translated it into English, and excerpts are going to be in English too. So not direct quotes, but translated quotes. So the first one I found very interesting is that they mentioned that plastic has the lowest environmental footprint among packaging and packing materials, which is an interesting quote because it tells me that this association is not anti-plastic. They don't want to ban plastic. They realize that yes, plastic is extremely useful. It is very cheap. It's very convenient. But obviously the downside is once you're done using it, you have to do something with it, right? You can just landfill it or, throw it in the river or in the oceans, but, no one wants that. And obviously if we can make some money from it, then recycling is easier, right? If you just have to rely on people's goodwill to recycle, well, that's going to be hard. But if you tell them, hey, we're going to pay you, $500 per ton that you can bring us in waste, hey, people will be interested, right? So that's also great. As an objective that they list of ECOSE, which other objectives of the association are facilitate the collection and valorization of post-consumer containers and packaging through the improvement of collection and recovery schemes that boost natural recycling markets. So valorization, pretty much turning garbage into money, containers, packaging, all plastics, collection, recovery. So, this association is pretty much what Aduro needs. They are going to do all the collecting, the recovery, all the politics, whatever, and Aduro just has to provide the technology to, pretty much turn the trash into cash, let's just say. They also focus on attending legislative and the regulatory agenda, so they are plugged into all the politics, all the agencies, all the government subsidies, regulations, etc., etc. That's great. And they also promote recycling and other methods and treatment of post-consumer container and packaging waste. So they also do campaigns, public campaigns in schools, in different other campaigns. So that's also great. And they also focus on creating synergies with different sectors of society and with different levels of government. So again, they are the intersection of all the big plastics producers, like, for example, Coca-Cola or Pepsi or whatever, and with different sectors of society. Obviously, if things go well, Aduro is going to be one of those sectors which focus on recycling the plastic. They also mentioned circular economy, which is pretty much what Aduro is focusing on right now. It is a model that prioritizes the utilization of resources and the reduction of raw materials. Again, we very recently saw an announcement from Aduro, which I thought was also very, very important, but I don't think it was the most important one, where they showed that the output from Aduro can be straight plugged into pretty much a plastics manufacturing facility. So you don't need to clean Aduro's output material. You can straight out convert it into more plastic, which again, great, reduces raw materials. You don't need to extract more oil. You can just recycle the plastic. And they also advocate for optimization of materials and waste, extending their useful life. Again, what Aduro is about. And the circular economy has the objective of converting waste into raw materials. Again, this is where Aduro excels at. Great to see. And in the case of recovery of post-consumer PET containers, our country maintains leadership in collection and recycling of the American continent. So yeah, you can really see Mexico is really, really quite advanced in PET collection. And people also get paid if they collect PET. And now I think they get paid around like $500 per ton, which is not a lot, but it motivates people to not toss it away. And therefore, they have very, very good recovery. And I'm going to dive into it a little bit later, but right now, not that much, let's say, other than PET. All the other plastic types are currently not collected that much. But the main reason is because it's valueless, right? Once you can create, let's say, a product from it, where you can recycle it, it's suddenly going to have some monetary value, and people are going to be really incentivized to collect way more of it and not just put it in a landfill. So I'm going to dive into Mexico's recycling mandates. And right now they are optional. There is currently a government bill that wants to make it not optional, but mandatory. But, it doesn't seem like this will happen in the near future, maybe at some point. But yeah, it's still optional, but it's good to know that 50% of Mexico's plastic is coming from companies adhering to the voluntary agreement. So at least 50% of, the volume is adhering to regulations. And the following regulations are currently, the targets are by 2030 to reach 30% recycled material in all plastic containers. So this is obviously great for Aduro, right? If you have a plastic container, and you have, let's say it's virgin plastic, so created from fossil fuels, and this regulations comes into place, well, now you might have to buy 30% from Aduro in, bio-naphtha or a recyclable product or something. You have to buy it from Aduro, mix it in with your virgin plastic, and now you have 30% recycled material. Or, you have to switch completely to renewable containers, maybe in other sectors where you can't really do recycling, so you have to compensate because it has to be a total of 30%. Also, 100% of the packaging needs to be reusable, recyclable, compostable, or recoverable. And I personally think this is the point that will help Aduro the most, because you have to prove that 100% of the packaging that you use can, in theory, be recyclable, Right now, if you have multi-layer films or plastic packaging or like these hard shells or whatever, they're currently not recyclable. I mean, maybe in some contrived way you could argue somehow you can do something with it, but you know, the argument is that they're not recyclable. But if you, in theory, now have, let's say, Aduro's demo plant running, in theory, now this plastic is recyclable. So this helps Aduro, where, you know, once they have access to Aduro's technology, hey, 100% of our plastic is now recyclable. So we adhere to these regulations. And also they, by 2030, have to achieve a collection rate of at least 45% for all plastics. I think they're not that far off already, so that's probably also going to get reached. And again, once there is a monetary incentive to collect the plastic, it's going to be way easier to collect, right? When you have to collect something that's worthless, I mean, you have to force people and, you know, spend a lot of money, but when you actually can make money from it, people will be motivated, I think. So now I'm going to do a little bit of a, let's say, surface level analysis of what this partnership might mean in potential recycling profits for Aduro. And again, these are very, very rough numbers, just to give you an idea that even just a single market like Mexico can make Aduro, you know, very, very valuable. So in 2020, about 12% of Mexico's urban solid waste was plastics. And if we assume the 45% collection rate that, you know, is set out by 2030, might be a little bit less because this 45% is dragged up by PET, where there is a lot more collection. But I also think, you know, this is a reasonable assumption because if you can actually profitably recycle all the other plastic types, the collection rates will go up, right? Because people want to make money and yeah, people will just motivated to collect the actual plastic. And if you assume Aduro can recycle about 75% of those plastics into a profitable output, then we can just assume that roughly 4% of Mexico's urban solid waste will be potential feedstock for Aduro's hydrochemilytic technology. So in 2020, Mexico produced around 44 million tons of total urban solid waste, and by 2030 it's going to be approximately 49 million. Again, very rough numbers. You can do your own due diligence to check if this is actually true, but yeah, just very rough numbers. So just plugging like 4% of around 50 million is going to be around 2 million tons by 2030. Now some sources claim it's going to be maybe a little bit lower, maybe like 1.5, but again, very, very rough numbers to just show you the point I'm trying to make. And which numbers to take here for Aduro's licensing net profit. So this is for the licensing model. So let's say they license the technology to someone. How much are they going to make per ton? And again, we're not really sure what the number is going to be, but I'm just going to roughly assume like 175 to 400 tons. We're going to assume like you can use your own numbers if you want to. I think this is a reasonable range, and we're just going to look at it, what this means. So just plugging 2 million tons with $175 per ton means around 350 to 800 million tons in recurring annual revenues for Aduro. And I shouldn't say revenues, this is licensing revenues, which is going to be pretty much net profit because, you know, when you get a license, you have pretty much 100% profit margins, right? So this is going to be pretty much profit. Again, very rough numbers here. So if we assume a 20 times profit multiple, which is very reasonable, I think it might be even a little bit lowballing if the company is growing really quickly. But let's just say a 20x profit multiple, then, you know, the potential market value for Aduro is $7 to $16 billion. So what it means is if Aduro's only business was just doing all the plastics recycling in Mexico, no other verticals, no other countries, no other potentials, no other growth, nothing else, then with very reasonable assumptions, we can assume that the company is worth 7 to 16 billion. And currently the company is trading around 400 million. So even in the very lowest case, it's at least a 20x. And this is, again, just Mexico, just plastics, using very reasonable, I won't say the 175 per ton is very actual pessimistic assumptions. So this just tells you, you know, Mexico is only 1.6% of the population in the world, right? If you just 60x that, then in the very lowest case, Aduro is worth at least 100 billion if they can recycle all the plastic. Now, obviously, that's not going to happen. They're not going to recycle everything, but they also have other verticals, right? The 20x multiple might be 50x multiple. Some other market might open up, or, you know, maybe it's not going to be 400, but 500, 600, 700 million tons. And maybe because plastics can be recycled that easily, there will be more plastics produced. There are a lot of variables. But, this is just to show you that even like a very limited market like Mexico means Aduro is worth tens of billions of dollars by this calculation. And, the point really is that the current market cap of 400 million just makes absolutely no sense. But obviously, the price is that low because people are skeptical that this technology will actually work out, and they don't have the hard, undeniable proof that the big money is gonna be coming. But I think for anyone who does the due diligence, it's pretty obvious that it will happen. It's just a question of how long will it take for the actual facts to happen. So the pilot plant, the demo plant, actual commercial agreements, actual money flowing into Aduro's accounts. How long will this take? 2-3 years maybe. I think this is a rough assumption. And then the second question is, how long will it take for the stock market to realize that this is what's actually going on? That even when looking at Mexico and even just plastics and using reasonable assumptions, the company is worth like $10 billion. That's just, and again, it's a theoretical calculation, right? It doesn't tell you what the market will be doing, but I think this really shows you we have lots of margin of safety that even if things go very badly, Aduro will still generate, hopefully, lots of money. So, yeah. Again, this is all speculation. Do your due diligence. I am biased because I'm a shareholder. I'm not getting paid anything to say this, but yeah, I just believe in this company. I have a very, very large position in this company because I really think this is, such a low risk for me. Again, for me personally, it seems like such a low risk investment. Because it's just a question of when will this happen. It might be delayed, it might take a little bit longer, but yeah, okay. I'm rambling a little bit too much, but I'm just very passionate about this. So thank you guys for listening to all of this. Really appreciate it. And if you really like my content, just subscribe. It really helps me out a lot. It tells me that you guys are interested. You get notified when I do new videos. And yeah, just grows my channel, helps expose more people to Aduro, and you help me out directly. So thank you guys. See you guys next time.